So this is a mural that I just completed yesterday. This mural, when I think of my work, it's not very political. You know, I don't really seek to make huge political statements or take a political point of view about different topics. But this painting is political in a way because it's a response to the kind of assassinations that happened in Paris very recently, and the magazine Charlie Hebdo and what that was about. It really resonated with me, the idea that artists could be killed for a drawing, you know, or something that they did. And it really, you know, I'm somebody that was very influenced by comics growing up. I was influenced largely by comics like Mad Magazine and Zap and things like that, that were satirical, but they were also very powerful in the way that they influenced generations, and they still do. Mad Magazine has influenced everything from Woody Allen films to Seinfeld on TV. You know, if you talk about the people that wrote those series, I mean, that's what they were influenced by. So I kind of felt, after that happened, I felt that I had to create a work about that, about kind of freedom of speech and, you know, the power of the pencil. You know, so I kind of put this together in a way. You know, someone mentioned collage upstairs, and in a way, this is very collage-like, these images. I created this with a student here named Ellis Linebeck. So we have this depiction of multinational, multiracial people. Kind of, they're not, I would say that they're protesting, but they're kind of marching because it's their right to be able to do that. And, you know, they have these expressions that they're not, I wouldn't say that they're angry, but they're concerned, you know, and what they're concerned about. They could be concerned about their future, where they're going, what's happening. So it's about people that are really concerned. Here, I wanted to kind of show the Statue of Liberty, but not the whole statue. So you have this symbol of kind of liberty, you know, and there's a distinct relationship between France and the United States in terms of liberty. I mean, it was their gift to us. So I felt that, you know, it was very, very important to kind of have that element depicted in the mural. Since this is a mural that has this kind of weird expanse across 3 walls, I wanted to have this kind of continuity. I didn't want the mural to kind of be broken up, you know. There has to be this kind of continual flow. So I have everything sort of resting on this kind of bed of clouds, which is a real dreamlike kind of device that I use. And this eye, again, you know, which is done in charcoal, it's another device that's very, very dreamlike in a way. Like this is all, this is not all, but this is kind of a vision or a dream. These yellow and orange stripes are supposed to represent light, kind of light coming, the energy from the people. When I make a mural, I kind of plan it out with sketches, but I always leave a certain part of it up to spontaneity. So I had sketches of the key images, like the hand erasing the paper with the machine gun on it, and I had in a sketch of the mouth with the lock, but I was kind of putting this all together as I went along, you know. So I always had this kind of element of spontaneity and what looked right and what made sense. You'll see over here on the right-hand side, there's this mouth and there's a lock. It's an open lock, and that is really more about freedom of speech and kind of being able to express yourself in a civil way. And just having the right to be able to do that. You know, sometimes people won't agree with you. It's very hard to get everyone to agree on the same thing, but people should have the right to be able to do that in a civil way. And here I had these rooftops. I just kind of simply kept thinking about rooftops, and they would look good here. And there's really no other explanation about that, and I have kind of the subliminal message on billboards there. And here I used kind of a stained glass motif to show kind of light coming through. I think that the work, it works overall together, the way you're able to sort of read this from right to left. Any questions so far?
What does the hand represent?
The handprint? Again, it was something spontaneous that I was doing while I was drawing this out. And I felt like the hand is something, the way I've depicted it is something menacing. It's kind of a menacing symbol. So you have this handprint, which is supposed to be something menacing, and you have the machine gun. But the hand and the pencil is more powerful than that. It's erasing that. It's getting rid of it. So it's not linked to any particular group or anything. It's just very symbolic.
Upstairs, you talked about how you do and don't reference other artists and that kind of stuff in terms of, so this evokes for me Icy and Sots had a thing with a machine gun and an eraser.
Oh, yeah?
In a thing that they had on Lower East Side last year. There was a reference to gun control kind of stuff. But who do you are there references and things in a piece like this that you're thinking about?
Well, I know a lot of artists did drawings and did work when that attack happened. A lot of people did that, and I saw some of the images online, and I just felt that I wasn't really referencing any particular artist. I was trying to come up with images of my own to sort of respond to that.
There's often tension between, I noticed, between artistic free speech, especially in the spray paint culture, graffiti culture, and tropism law. And my own personal experience has been, I wanted to express something that's frustrating, and you have to measure at what point you think it's okay to maybe transgress property law in order to express yourself. So when you did trains or anything like that, did any of that kind of thinking go into your mind?
Well, to kind of explain that is very difficult, especially kind of if you're not from the culture. But I will say that, for example, issues of private property. Private property is private. So, people shouldn't infringe their viewpoint on someone else's private property. Public property, then it becomes a matter of context, and using kind of your own judgment. In terms of subways, that was the perfect context for what was being done. And it made sense at that time. I'm not from the first generation of people that started doing that, and kind of discovered that. But it made sense. It was the perfect context, the perfect way to get your work throughout the entire city. And in reality, they're owned by everyone. There's no single person owns the transit system. And now, as a matter of fact, there's no graffiti on subways, but there's advertising, and people don't have a say in that. It's just okay. All of a sudden you're bombarded by a giant ad. And for me, I feel kind of claustrophobic when I see that.
Did you take photographs of your subway cars?
Yes.
Okay.
So documentation was really important.
What was it like for you to work in this space? Because it's kind of like a studio, but it was really public, and I just wonder, when you work outside on a train, it's so different from working in the studio, having a private space, and this is like somewhere in between of people commenting and interacting.
Well, I'm kind of used to it. If I'm working on a wall in a street, a mural, You know, people are going to come by and, you know, they'll say what they want to say, but that's the public, you know, and you got to be prepared for that. So some people, what is that? What is that? You know, or some people will comment there, they'll like it, you know, they'll say things that are positive. But if you're not ready for that, then, you know, you should stay in the studio. So it's kind of refreshing painting outside or painting outside of the studio sometimes. It's, most of my practice involves studio work, probably like 80% of it, but there is a percentage of what I do as a whole that involves making murals. And, you know, engaging the public is kind of refreshing at times.
Can you comment a little bit about the shapes that are above the sheet of paper with the machine?
Yeah, these shapes, it was really difficult to think about space there. I had a lot of ideas about what I wanted to put in that space, but all of the ideas would have competed with what else is going on in the mural as a whole. And I did not want to take away from the strength and the impact of this image by having something that was very detail oriented up there. It's also kind of dark as you get to the top, so doing something that's really detailed, you know, didn't really make sense. So I just kind of created these abstract shapes that are almost like speech balloons. And they're connected, but it's not, you know, representative of anything aside from kind of being an abstract shape. And in that way, it doesn't really compete with the image, with the rest of the mural.
You said a student helped you. Is there any parts of the, I don't know, when you collaborate where you have to do something? Or is it okay, like, does it go kind of free?
Well, you know, I do a lot of work with kids. So when I work with students, I'm not telling them what to do, basically. I'm inviting their input. And that way, they can kind of claim it as their own as well. And I think that's part of the learning experience. And at least, you know, my approach to it, that's the way it is. You know, if I were telling them paint that blue, red, orange, whatever, then it's more, they're working in a more of an assistant capacity. And they may not walk away with anything in that way. But, you know, we had a discussion kind of about what she was going to paint. And she started we talked about it. And we talked about the Liberty hand, and she said she wanted to do this, and she started sketching it, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really perfect to what we were trying to do, when it fits in well, and she did a really amazing job. So this is something that, you know, she could be proud of, and is really a part of her. So it's a different, I'm kind of more like a door that they walk through and gain experience that way. And, you know, in making the mural, I had to kind of think about that as a concern too. Like, all right, if I'm working with students, how is this going to be interesting to them too?